They are planed off ridge lines, averaging a mean sea level elevation of 3, 4, or 5,000 feet. A strip then that's only about 4, 5, or 600 feet long. And when I say that's all along it goes straight, that's not very straight. That means it only has a 15 or 20 degree bend in it somewhere between the front and the end. The average width of these strips are about 35 feet, keeping in mind that our wingspan is 49 feet. The gear width is 10 feet. There's an upslope gradient, which you always land into. Of course, the upslope is take off from the downslope. The gradient of anywhere from 5 to 30 degrees of upslope. I really don't think of it as dangerous if I only have to worry about my own skill. Not that it's anything extraordinary, but if I can count on it. I know what my own limits are. And I know how long the strip is, how wide it is, and I know I can make it or I can't make it. I would say the primary dangerous factor is wind, gusts, and drafts. Wind varying direction, wind varying in intensity, and thermal, the lack of, the non-existence of, or the sudden presence of, can affect an aircraft's flight path so radically, so suddenly. And that's why when I come into a strip, from 5 minutes out, I'm searching for smoke, small fires for wind direction. You've really got to take your time and plan your approach carefully. A second factor is the runway condition. Standing water, sod, flat grass, these kind of things, a pilot can't tell too well from the air. You can get them into very serious and critical trouble. So we have a great problem with maintaining the strips, and it's a great deal of eroding and rutting, loss of any markers that we could put into them, and the runway surface erodes so badly in just a matter of 2 weeks. The strip can be usable on a Monday, and on Friday it would tear off the tail wheel. So these are the things which make it dangerous. The elements of nature around you that are varying from day to day, and in fact, unfortunately, from minute to minute.
Skycat 60 Fox.
They know that our fixed-wing aircraft are supposed to report in every 30 minutes. And if they don't report in every 30 minutes, they query about it. And I hope they never lose interest in this. It's sort of a
the average mission we fly here, we carry 13 pallets. So we'll just drop one pallet the first time and use that kind of as to bore sight what's the area we picked as our aiming point. That's okay, then we drop 2 at a time. Even if it's a little bit off, we can still correct it on the next pass and just make a total of 7 passes. There are, of course, many ways to drop. In the C-46, well, I drop in circles, figure eights, rectangle patterns, whatever the terrain calls for, or the turbulence or the weather. The majority of our drops being there on hillsides and little cliff tops and mountain tops and things, we have to pretty much drop in just one direction. You want the bags falling perpendicular to the terrain. When the rice comes out of the plane, it's not only going to have the momentum from the aircraft, it's also going to start being affected by the wind. You vary your aiming point, I'd say up to 15 feet, 20 feet. For just an average wind. Sometimes it might be 50 feet if there's a good strong wind blowing. As you're coming into it, your load's going to be back by the door. It's going to be a little tail heavy. But as you drop, tail's going to come up. Nose goes down, you're rising anyway with this sudden loss of weight, especially later on when you're getting pretty much empty the last couple of pallets to go out. I always drop with the 25% flat. Get the tail a little high so when the rice comes out, it gives you a little safety margin there so the rice won't hit the tail. Once you've found the power setting, normally in a smooth area, you don't have to change it. Maybe every 2 revolutions, drop 2 pallets, pull a ½ inch of manifold pressure off. It's a million little minor things that all have to be coordinated in together.
Hello, Skycap, Papa Echo Juliet.
Echo Juliet, Skycap, go.
Papa Echo Juliet, completed draft primary Delta Zulu, Lima 05.
Roger.
Well, at Kanta and the one also at Lumsden. So I do have to depend on Air America to get me there. As a nurse education advisor, I'm responsible for working with a counterpart in each school of nursing. And the counterpart in the United States, he would be called the director of the School of Nursing. He is...
He's got a different outlook. The helicopter's right down on the ground, flying low. He knows a lot more about how the people are living and what's actually going on up in that neighborhood.
They will work directly with...
This is the best way to move X from A to B. You're constantly thinking all the time of how you're going to approach the task and what your alternatives are and so on. Normally the loads will run about 1,500 pounds with the F-13 to the normal pads that we're going into upcountry. If you're going to an unknown place, you always plan for the worst. You have to take into consideration how your winds are blowing. If you have very strong winds that day, you might knock the load down a couple of 100 pounds just to be on the safe side. Your turnaround time with an external load is much faster. You can make an approach to a site, hook an external load up, and be off in less than 15 seconds. We always try and make our approaches into the wind as much as possible. This gives us more lift longer until you come out of transitional lift and are ready to hover over the pad. And then you just stabilize your hover high so that the load is not going to hit the pad with a jolt and damage whatever you're carrying. Flight mechanic, he's talking about how high the load is above the ground. He'll say 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet, 1 foot, touchdown release. At the same time, you can feel the load touch the ground and less power is required to hover the aircraft at that point.
The climatology here is 5 months of intensive rain each year, which of course brings on its own operating problems. 7 months of rather indifferent summer weather, which is accentuated by winds up country, dust in great quantities, almost like the Sahara Desert, reduced visibility, and the smoke from the burning of crops by the nomad tribes in the upland regions. This is a form of agricultural culture in Laos.
Which of course with an engine failure, we want to keep the rotor on him. We practice emergencies up to a point. If the engine is not at idle, it's not available in case a mistake is made during the auto rotation. If a mistake is made, we must have the ability to fly it away. Sompong has done very well from the beginning. We anticipate qualifying him as captain as soon as he can finish his area familiarization in northwest Laos.
Then,
When I brief new pilots, I'd like to get them off on the right foot. They're all part of the company, part of the pilot group. We help each other out every day. We depend on each other. We're the guys that are going to have to go pick a guy up if he goes down for engine failure or something like that. And I try to foster this as much as possible. We depend on each other in the area for area briefings. If something happens, a changing situation, we'll pass it on to the other pilots as soon as you find out so that nobody else can run into trouble. This is the secret of our success out here is to a large extent, is that we know what the other guy is doing.
On the H30, maximum power to come right straight over and right straight down. There's no techniques involved. You would need about 50% more horsepower than actually is required. So you bring your cyclic back, and it brings the blades back, and it's a stopping action. The flare actually will take care of probably most of your weight, and then most of your power is saved in case there is emergency. A good technique is you never pull power until after that tail touches, and that takes 30% of your load. So you can land using probably 50%, 60% of your available power. And if you have power, you can pull back off. We have to fly very defensively over here because you never know exactly what's going to happen. Like that pad was the first time I'd ever seen it, let alone land in it. But this is part of our job, probably a greater part of our job than carrying the rice, but they fit in well together. There's the welfare of these people, of course, which is the same reason for the rice. You are a part, and you're contributing to something that's greater than yourself. And this is very important in flying a helicopter. Now, as I take off, to use the least amount of power is good for technique, but also in case of power failure, it gives us the best chance of getting off the pad and getting to a low area. We want to get into translational lift as soon as possible, which in this aircraft is 13 knots. So as we take off now, if we turn directly into wind, we'd be going directly into the hill. We have our nose just to the left of the wind now. Directly in front of us is the greatest drop. We'll roll as far as we can, maintaining our ground cushion. Getting to the edge of the pad, we have to push forward. It's a slight cycle. It's very smooth, so you don't spill any lift from that tip pad. Just as we break lift, we can feel that shudder. We're in translation. We decrease power, and we're offline. This is a more aggressive type takeoff, but is the one we recommend and the one we teach.
This I've been working with curvature. This is the camber of the wing, and it extends for a constant value throughout the length of the wing and offers it very high lift capabilities. The propeller that is installed on our over 500 shaft horsepower turboprop engine produces a great amount of thrust, and combined with the high lift wing, gets us off the ground in 500-foot strips very reliably. The porter has installed in the cabin floor a swinging double door, and the release handle for that door is right up by the pilot's left hand. To drop rice out of the porter, you fly over the drop zone, simply pull this handle, and the rice is very accurately dropped. There are two things that enable the porter to land in short strips conveniently. One is its low approach speed through the airfoil shape, and the other is the reversible propeller on the engine. And when you approach a short strip at 55 knots and touch down smoothly, immediately affecting reverse thrust, why, it's just very impressive. I carry everything from baby pigs and freshly butchered buffalo to VIPs, in and out of 10,000-foot to 500-foot strips, all with equal facility, really. The airplane, when carefully prepared, is a very nice VIP airplane, although it's a little noisy inside. And when using it as a workhorse, why, it's very handy with a big, open, easily loaded cabin. It's real handy for carrying refugees, boxes, and odd-shaped packages, and mismanaged kids and unmanageable kids, and anything that you can think of.
And it's become attached to the program, attached to the people. And they've got very little to support them, especially when it comes to picking up sick or wounded. If we don't pick them up, the odds are that they're going to die, because all they have is this village witch doctor to help them out. Therefore, I'll put out a little extra effort to go get a guy if he's in trouble.
The program itself is a village health program. It's kind of all we do in this area. I have responsible for the medics, the medical warehouse, and all the field dispensers. We can't airdrop this stuff, that's obvious. Make sure it's being used properly. So it has to be brought in by a stow aircraft. If they have 600 people that stay there, they keep a medic in. And we just primarily take care of the population. And the people to get some medical care and hospital now are all refugee status, and they're needing refugee relief and medicine. Most of they're moving and resistance run down, and so they're prone to come down with the malaria and dysentery. Every site that we have left now has refugees moving in and through, and they're using more medicine. And finally, the job is just make sure that they're supplied. Check the dispensary first to see it's clean. Check to see that he's got his medicine there, and check his book. We have a record book. If there's no problem,